Life is a mystery. That ought to be a lyric, huh? Maybe it is. I need to learn more about lyrics, don't I? I'm always citing them. Sometimes I can't give proper attribution to the citations. So, listen, this show needs to get more coherent, more cogent. This show, and I'm referring to the podcast, you may or may not be listening to at the moment. For instance, you may be listening to this in real time. That would mean it's 6:01 in Dallas. It's May 5th, 2021. Or you may be listening to it at an alternative time, which I don't know when that would be. But, anyways, besides the point. Point is that this podcast should be more coherent. I really believe. I believe that with a modest amount of effort, I could do better. I just have to set my mind to it. I haven't set my mind to it yet, but I'm beginning to set my mind to doing a better podcast. I just wanted you to know that that's in the works mentally. It's on the horizon. And like I looked at equipment. Hi, Lisa and Kathy. I looked at equipment and something that would make the sound better, right? And it says you own a microphone, use it. I have a microphone. I don't use it because you have to wear headphones if you use it. And I don't like wearing headphones. But I'm going to look for some headphones. I'm going to buy the headphones. I'm going to try this. Supposedly will make the sound better. I don't think it will, but that's what the article I read on the internet said. So there's a plan afoot that if I'm going to keep doing this, it should be a little bit more polished and not professional, but polished. In other words, you shouldn't have to listen to 45 minutes of pure rambling. Maybe the rambling would be interspersed with something cogent and something helpful or something you may not normally have been exposed to, but that I was able to introduce you to, right? Okay. So, oh, I got a text from somebody I texted before the show. Thank you, Kathy. So, but in the meantime, until I reach this point in my life where I actually put effort into a podcast, and I mean effort beyond making note of music and such, until I get to that point, we'll kind of trudge along as best we can. And I say we because the audience is part of the podcast. There, if you think about it, there is no audience if a uh, there's no podcast without an audience. Now, some people may be podcasting something educational and it goes up on the internet so that at some point people read it, like maybe it's a chemistry class or a chemistry thing, right? And so, a year from now, you could go and you could look at this 1 hour class and because it's got a formula you were looking for, whatever. That's not the nature of this podcast. This podcast is interactive. It has to be because if nobody was there, I have no stimulation to continue. I need people. I need comments, criticisms, adulation, whatever you want to say, in order to be stimulated enough to make the effort to sit down every day for 45 minutes and try to communicate in a stable and sane manner. So that's where I'm at. I just want you to know that the seed has been planted for the possibility of someday in the future, not at the moment, to have a podcast that maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll be more informative, maybe it'll be arts and films, as Rachel suggested. Mark has said exposed. What that means, I don't know. Him and his cryptic remarks, I hope that in his real life, that Anne somehow balances him out. That maybe if you were sitting in the living room and he's giving these one word cryptic statements, that somehow Anne is just babbling away so that if you were a guest in their home, you wouldn't be staring at Mark like, oh my God, what is he trying to say? Because you would be focused on something that Anne would be saying that would not be so cryptic, would be more engaging, more animated, and you'd be going, wow, that's cool, you know. And you'd kind of like when Mark intrudes with exposed, you'd be thinking, I wonder if he's on his meds. All right. Is a communicative. Um, what is? There we go again. Everybody's writing in 1 to 3 words. And I just want to tell you that when you're podcasting and people type in these shortened versions because in your head, you know what you mean. I just want to make it clear. Doesn't mean I know what you mean. Now, I was hot before. I mean, cold. Now I'm hot. It all depends upon this door here. The cats are in the yard. I mean, not the yard, they're on the back porch there. So the temperature changes from the time you close the door, which it was earlier, to opening the door, to closing the door. Anyways, you don't want to live this life. It's traumatic. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going on. And I have things that I think um, are worthy. I want to inform you that I am going to go to Chicago. I talked to some people sometime this summer, and I'm going to have the gathering of the tribe as I used to do every year. I talked to a woman named Aurora. She's from Hyde Park. I talked to Kathy Corsi, um, and I talked to Bill Stibe, and you know, it's coming together. Everybody's been vaccinated pretty much. You know, we're talking about a picnic in the park. Mark and Ann are invited. Jimmy Childs is invited. We'll see. Anyways, I just wanted you to know that the seed got planted today, and it's going to be watered and given some sort of nutrients so that it will grow, so that it will happen, barring some unforeseen circumstance. For those of you that are watching the podcast from YouTube, I know that's a smaller audience. I want to clarify. I should have done it 8 minutes ago. I am communicating on Facebook with a group of people who are also watching the podcast, but in a separate media. Not, I don't know if media, this is the internet, right? Um, so, anyways, Rachel, what I said is sometime this summer, and this is the Hyde Park gang. So I'm hoping against hope that people from all over the United States will show up. They won't, but I'm hoping. All right. So let me tell you about what's up. So I didn't work on the pictures today. I was just burnt out, and I didn't go bicycling. My brain was fried. Right. Okay. So I sat at home. I got on the internet. My voice feels stressed. I know what I did. So I got up, I did my A meeting, and then I decided I have to resolve my dental issues because I think I reported to you. I saw a dentist. She said, "Oh yeah, how much money do you have? I want it all." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not down with that. But okay, I believe that I need to have some work done. I believe in dental work. I don't believe in letting cavities fester." So I left town and I lost half a tooth. I'm back. And I'm like, I'm not dealing with it. Well, I started dealing with it. I bought some dental discount plan. And it turns out the dentist I had seen, they're not in that plan, despite my best efforts in making a determination they were. So canceled that. And so I lost a couple of days. Then I decided this morning, I'm going to resolve this. And the dental people at the dental location said, get a Carrington plan. We're in that one. That's in our network. Okay. Or we're in their network. So I contact Carrington. I get on the phone with them and they walk me through their best discount plan. Costs money, but I'm going to save a lot of money. And then lo and behold, I contact the dental group and they say, oh, we're not in that plan. Well, what freaking plan are you in? So I call Carrington again. And by the way, I want to tell you this about Carrington Dental Plans. I called them twice today. Both times I got a upbeat white male speaking to me in English as their first language. Boy, I was grateful. And not because they were male and not because they were white. I'm just telling you that's unusual. What I'm grateful for is their language was English as their first language. So they walked me through some of it. Finally, figured out a plan that would also involve this dentist, my Carrington plan. So now I call him. I need my appointment. Yeah, well, how about Friday? And I'm like, no, Friday's not good. See, you've run me around the carousel. I've gotten nowhere, and I've got this tooth that's disintegrated and is getting irritated. So at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So that took up part of the morning. And then I talked with Bill Stipe for about an hour today, for those of you from the south side of Chicago. And I talked to Laura, I talked to Kathy. And so I was having today was more sociable than normal. Okay. By the way, I finished the Lou Malnati's pizza in 2 days. That 1,500, 2,000 calorie pizza. Nobody participated in it. The young man that lives here never availed himself of the opportunity. Anyways, so take a breath, Ken. Okay. All right. So then I'm sitting here at my desk and I set up my podcast with about a half hour to go. Okay. So I'm sitting here and I've got the box of photos beside me. Now I've taken most of the loose photos out and started arranging them, not on the internet, just on my desk, right? I'm ready to move. I'm going to do the scanner thing. I'm psyched. And then, so I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, let's see what else is in the box. Well, what I found was an album, which, by the way, instead of being in a box where nobody could ever see it, that could have been out, because why am I buying a hardbound book of photos, and some of which I've already been organizing? They were already in a books. Not what I want. I'm just saying. So I found some photos that I'm going to post later on the internet or something. What's her name? I knew her name a half hour ago. We were on her show, limited edition or something, in the afternoon. I really like her. I think she's smart. Too bad I can't remember her name. But that's not because her name's not worthy. That's because I simply don't remember anything that's more than 8 hours ago. So I apologize. Some of you will recognize her. She was a newscaster, and then she got her own show in the afternoon, something edition. You can help me out by typing it in, please. Okay. I found this. Remember, I've been posting photographs of my time spent with the Trial Lawyers College. I spent 3 summers with Jerry Spence at his ranch. The first year training, and then 2 years helping staff. But the first year was kind of the year that I met most people. The first year I met, well, anyways, we'll talk more about when, what, and where. But I found this photograph. I think his name is Philip Black, a very famous attorney in Florida. He was involved in a really big case, which, of course, it didn't happen in the last 30 minutes. So I can't remember the name of the freaking case. Okay. I apologize. If you know what case Mr. Black was so involved with, it was big. I don't know if it was Florida case. I know he's a Florida lawyer. I don't even know if he's alive anymore. I haven't talked to these people. I stopped communicating with the faculty and the students at Thunderhead Ranch in uh, DuBois, Wyoming, Jerry Spence's ranch, years ago. I didn't feel part of the community anymore. I was in the first class in 1994 that Jerry Spence held, where he trained trial lawyers. I was accepted as one of the first 50 students to go through the program. And the first year was kind of loosey goosey in contrast to subsequent years. In subsequent years, he's done a lot of modifications, which probably are swell. I'm just not involved in it. And people got all, they became a tribe and they call themselves a tribe, all these lawyers, where this, uh, what is it called? Freaking warriors. That's not the word. They use the F word. Um, anyways, so they formed this, community. And I eventually found myself unengaged with the community. And so I just don't communicate. I don't communicate with Jerry or his son or any of the people that I got to know very well. So let me tell you about, and then I'll show you some more photos. So none of you are helping me with Mr. Black. None of you are helping me with that woman. That's Deborah. Deborah what? Come on. Here I go. I start the show by saying it's an interactive community, and y'all just walk out on me. I mean, some of you are still there. You gotta freaking help me. My memory is inadequate to do a podcast by myself. Otherwise, here's what the podcast would sound like if nobody was there and I was doing this. Deborah Norville, thank you, Joan. Thank you, for God's sakes, thank you. All right, here's can you imagine what a podcast with nobody listening, like people are supposed to check in later. Like pretend I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I did my podcast, I posted it, and then people listen. You'd be sitting there going, and then I don't remember. That would be like a 45 minutes. There'd be about 30 where I'm going. So I can't remember the name of it, but maybe you do. And no, we can't do that. Deborah Norville, I really like her. By the way, I think she's beautiful. And had she shown any inclination to engage with me as a romantic relationship, I would have accepted that position, but it wasn't. So I'm going to explain to you about the Jerry Spence connection. Maybe I need to explain Jerry Spence. Some of you may not know. Jerry Spence, hey Chris, was probably at his peak. He was, and I don't expect you to necessarily, premier trial lawyer in the world. Because if you're the premier trial lawyer in the United States, they're pretty much, because they don't have that many lawyers everywhere. So Jerry Spence, I knew of Jerry Spence. He's a big figure. When I was in law school, they were having the McDonald's trial where he was suing McDonald's on behalf of an ice cream manufacturer. And I just casually walked across the street because John Marshall Law School is right across the street from the Dirksen Federal Courthouse. I went over there and watched him one day. So I knew who Jerry Spence was. Then right around my third year of law school, maybe I was even a recent graduate, I went to a banquet in Chicago for the Chicago Cook County Public Defender's Office. And he was the keynote speaker. They had invited him, he'd accepted. So I sat at this banquet, didn't meet him. I didn't meet him at the courthouse. I didn't meet him at the banquet. I went up to Jackson Hole, Wyoming one year to hike with my friend Carrie. And we went to this coffee house. It's kind of like a Starbucks, but I doubt it was a Starbucks. I don't drink coffee, doesn't matter. I was in line. What for? I don't know. Jerry Spence was on the cover of Wyoming Magazine. I think that was the name of it, or maybe it's Jackson Hole. No, I think it's Wyoming Magazine. Jerry Spence was on the cover that particular month, splattered everywhere. I get in line, and who walks up and gets behind me? Jerry Spence. You don't mistake Jerry Spence. First off, he's very tall. He's always had long gray hair. He wears a fringe buckskin jacket. So he walks in, he's standing behind me, and I'm debating, do I say hi to him? at this point, I am a lawyer. Uh, and so I turn around and I say, Mr. Spence, my name's Ken Goldberg. I just wanted to introduce myself. I saw you when you were at the banquet for the public defender's office in Chicago, whenever it was, year or two, three earlier. And he was, oh, he was friendly. We chatted for a moment. I'm a lawyer. He's a lawyer. And that's it. Boom, I'm gone. Well, one day I've decided, 7 years into my practice, I'm getting my brains kicked in court repeatedly. I mean, I'm going to trial, and I'm doing what I think is a good job, but um, I'm not winning my juries. I'm winning cases, but I'm not winning enough juries for a guy who aspires to be a trial lawyer. So I went a looking, and I found out there were two trial lawyers geared for criminal defense lawyers in the United States. One was in Atlanta, Georgia, and the other one was in Wyoming. One was run by the National Criminal Trial Lawyers Association or something, right? And it was 2 weeks long. And one was Jerry Spence's Trial Lawyer College, first year, 30 days in Wyoming at his ranch. I applied to both. And I asked for a scholarship. Jerry Spence's people contacted me and said, you've been accepted into the program, and we're going to give you a 2/3 scholarship. So and Lori, my wife at the time, was very excited. She thought Jerry Spence was great. She thought this is the most exciting freaking thing. And I said, well, let's wait and see what the Trial Lawyers College in Georgia says, the National Criminal Trial Lawyers Association, whatever. And they contacted me with a rejection. So that made it easy. I'm just going to go to study with Jerry Spence. And so I did. And I flew to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And then I drove over the pass for about an hour and a half. You get to DuBois, Wyoming. And there was this 300-acre ranch. Beautiful. Just beautiful part of the country. Wind River Mountains, if you know them. And there were 50 of us. And then there were all these faculty. And the faculty included people like Robert Shapiro, Philip Corboy, Racehorse Haynes, Morris Dees. I mean, it was just, he had invited all these fabulous lawyers, and it was just wild. I mean, it was wild in terms of teaching. And somebody asked me, are you excited? And I said, well, no, I'm not. Why aren't you excited? I said, well, first of all, I'm here because it's Jerry Spence Trial Lawyers College, but that doesn't mean Jerry Spence will be here. Okay, he was all the time. And I got to know him. I hiked with them. I got to know him pretty good. When I left, at the end of 30 days, I learned a lot. And I was going to trial right away in Kansas City, Missouri, suing a civil case with another lawyer, suing the Teamsters Union. So that was going to be 2 weeks after I got out. I'd already been on the road for months, various activities. So I got to Kansas City, Missouri. I tried a case. I won it. But I started telling you the last day of the Trial Lawyers College, I went up to Jerry and I thanked him. I said, this has been really helpful. I really feel empowered. I really feel like I learned a lot. I learned about direct examination, cross-examination, opening statements, closing arguments. I really feel much better armed to represent my clients in a court before a jury. And I said, if you ever need anything, perhaps you need a young protege at a trial, or maybe you need a bodyguard, since I was trained as a bodyguard. Remember, I've told you I was a graduate of the Personal Protection Institute in Virginia, where I had spent a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days for a week, practicing personal protection, which is AKA bodyguard. Well, shortly thereafter, I got a call or an email, I don't remember which, from Jerry Spence saying, I'm going on a book tour starting in October, and it's going to be The Making of a Country Lawyer. It's a book he had just written. He's written several books. And he said, I need somebody to accompany me. He said, my wife is not up to that kind of travel. It's 30 days. You're traveling all the time. And He said, are you willing to do that? And I said, yeah, I'd already told him, ask anything. I'll help you. So he took advantage of it. For 30 days we traveled. He gave me $2,000. That's nothing for 30 days, 24 hours a day for 30 days. But I did it. So here's what it involved. We met wherever it was we started, and here's how it goes. He owns a plane. I've told you about it, a turboprop. We would get on every day. We would get on this turboprop, and we would fly from wherever we were to where we were going. When we arrived, a car would be waiting for us at each airport. The car was provided by the book publisher or some other entity. They would come out onto the tarmac, runway, whatever you call it. They would pick us up, usually, because we're a private plane landing in a private area, no security to pass through. And they would usually take us directly to a hotel. We would check in. I would help get Jerry checked in, his luggage and everything. We would have dinner, hang out, go to bed. First thing in the morning, knock, knock. Jerry, are you ready? Breakfast time. Yes, be right with you. We would go down to breakfast. Jerry Spence and I have breakfast together. Then immediately, car would be waiting for us, take us to various TV stations. Every morning, there was usually a TV station that wanted to see us. And then we would do book signings at bookstores throughout the day if we weren't doing media. And usually at night, that's when you did a book signing every night, right? So we would do the book signing. We would be done by 7:30, 8. We'd either get on the plane and head out to the next place, or we'd sleep in that town and fly out first thing in the morning. Every day until Friday. Friday night, we landed in whatever, Friday, we land in whatever city, and we stayed Friday night, Saturday night. Sunday, his plane would meet us and take us to the next stop. And this went on every day. So now there was one exception. That was New York City. Two things about New York City. We were in Dallas. We had to be in New York. And that's a long ride on a turboprop. So Jerry had us booked into a commercial flight, and he had his pilot meet us in New York. So that's where I met Deborah Norville, Don Imus. I had dinner with Dan Rather. We met Jon Stewart. We met Geraldo Rivera. We met the Today Show. We met the Good Morning America show. We did it all while we were there. I don't know how many days that is, but we did it. And then we flew out to wherever the next stop was. So we did take a commercial flight. So you understand, I'm very integrated with Jerry. If he goes to dinner, I goes to dinner. He goes to lunch, I goes to lunch. He goes to the hotel, I goes to the hotel. He goes to work out, I go to work out. And if you approached him and you looked suspicious, you would generally have to shoot me or stab me first, because Jerry was admired or not by a lot of really crazy people because he defended Randy Weaver from the Ruby Ridge incident, who was a white survivalist. A lot of crazy people thought he was sympathetic to their cause. He wasn't. He was just a guy who was willing to defend somebody that he thought needed defense because there were overwhelming odds against him. So we were approached by some pretty weird people and some pretty normal people. And people brought him food. People brought him cases every day. Every time we did a book signing, I can promise you, at least a half a dozen people would come up and say they were not allowed to hand Jerry Spence anything. You had to hand it to me. So if you tried to hand him an envelope or a file or whatever it was, Jerry would say, please see my protege. And they would hand it to me. Jerry was not into touching the food or the files initially. My job then, when we got on the plane, so we would leave, we would go to the airport, get on the plane. My job was to read anything that had been submitted and then tell him what each one was. And then he would decide what answers, and I would help him craft answers, and sometimes he'd say, that sounds like a case I'm interested in, my office interested in. Please see that that gets to my office. So we had pre-mailers, sorted mailers. So all I had to do was stick the file in there, and it went to his office. And Glenn was his pilot, got to be friendly with Glenn. And, it was an experience. Yeah, Kathy says it sounds like a great experience. For a young trial lawyer, I was in my 40s, to be with the best trial lawyer that I have ever met in my life, and most other people have ever met, to be with him first for 30 days of training that when I got 2 weeks later, I went to Kansas City, Missouri, and I trounced two lawyers hired by the Teamsters Union to defend them against a discrimination case against a black woman. When I tell you I trounced them, I mean I beat them unmercifully, and I had never done that. I was just hot off of my training, man. I knew I had it all right. So okay, so and then to fly with him for 30 days, to talk to him every afternoon on the plane about law, about life, whatever, because he's an interesting guy. Was intense. What do you think we did during dinner? We talked. We talked about life. We talked about his life. We talked about my life, and on and on and on and on it went. So it was something. Then, after he found out about the cases I was winning, he invited me to come to the Trial Lawyers College as a staff person, and I became an instructor how teaching lawyers how to do direct examination. That was one of the things I was good at. I did that for 2 years, and then he asked me not to come back. He said it was because he wasn't bringing lawyers back. After 2 years, he was trying to keep the staff revolving. But here it is, 30 years later, and I can tell you that Jerry brought a lot of people back year after year after year. I'm pretty sure it's because I threatened to kick Guastafaro. I can't remember his first name, but I one of these people he had up at the ranch that was supposed to teach us acting, and he got in my face, and I think he thought that getting in my face would be he would insult me, and either I would accept the insult or I would insult him back. But instead, I said, I'm going to beat you unmercifully if you open your mouth again. And that got back to Jerry, and I think he just didn't approve of that kind of thing. So, anyways, but so that was my last participation in the Trial Lawyers College. Oh, okay. So we did The Making of a Country Lawyer. Some of you may have met him when we were when we came to Dallas. We met people that I knew. Chicago, when I was in Chicago, people I knew in Chicago, family and stuff, came to the book signing. And so anyways, that was Trial Lawyers College. And you may have noticed I posted some photos. I found a bunch of photos, but I haven't taken them out. I posted a picture of Robert Shapiro and myself, and but what I found today was, and one of Jerry Spence, Robert Shapiro, and myself. So today I found this book with pictures I didn't remember. This one, it also includes my wife. Well, that's a really crappy. That's not working very well, but that's Lori. She was my wife at the time. She came up to the ranch because she hadn't seen me in months because I had been on the road, right? So she came up to the ranch and spent the weekend at Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And then Jerry was very kind. He let us stay at his house in Jackson Hole. So she came to Du Bois, but then we drove back to Jackson Hole with Morris Dees. Man, I mean, if you're a trial lawyer and you have a chance to spend a couple hours in a car with Morris Dees beside you, the founder of the Southern Poverty Law Center, the man who sued the Ku Klux Klan, beat them, and took away their headquarters in Mobile, Alabama. Just incredible undertaking. And you get a chance to, he says, I need a ride to the airport in Jackson Hole. And you say, I'm going there, Morris, be happy to drive you. Lori sat in the back because she knew I wanted to, have this chance. And then when we got to Jackson Hole, he's like, why don't we all have dinner together? And then we had breakfast with them. This is for this just I don't know. What do you say? It's as if you're a gangster and John Gotti invited you to have dinner with them, a social dinner, not to kill you, right? Or maybe you're a political figure and you meet your political heroes. I was having a good time, and and I was absorbing the hell out of everything these guys were saying because I knew I was with the cream of the crop. So I asked Morris Dees. We're driving to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours from the ranch. And I said to him, "How long have you known Jerry Spence?" I said, I haven't. He said, "I just met him the same day you met him when we all arrived at the ranch for the beginning of the thing. He was only there for 2 weeks, then he left." And I said, "Really? Well, what are you doing here? How did you come to be here?" He said, "Jerry Spence called me and asked me to come to his ranch. He said, Jerry Spence calls you, you come." And I'm thinking, you're like on the mountaintop and you're looking up the mountaintop at a higher mountain called Jerry Spence. That's pretty amazing because I'm like down in the valley, Jack. You're all gods to me. And by the way, I kicked the crap out of a lot of prosecutors after that. Um, I was pretty much invincible with what I learned from Jerry Spence. But then I started losing and I quit. I'm not a good loser. So I quit practicing law and I moved into other matters. Okay? So where do we leave off? I already had the gun range. I was practicing law when I got accepted. Uh, I don't know. Somewhere along the line, I bought a gun range or started a gun range. So, all right. I found a picture of this guy from Friends, uh, kind of the straight guy. I can't remember his freaking name. Yeah, listen, I can't get all these out of the book, but there's Lori with the guy from Friends, and then there's one of Lori. Oh, I'm going, and me and a mouse or chipmunk. Maybe that's a chipmunk, right? And Philip Black. Nobody responded to me with that. You didn't. Great. The sound machine's burping. So I also had a picture. I don't know. That was later. Whatever that was later means, I don't have the freakiest clue. All right. There's the guy, Matthew Perry. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you all for helping me manage this podcast. This is me with one of my 2 or 3 MP5 submachine guns, full automatic submachine guns. It would appear that I am in the closet at my gun range. Now, why am I in the closet taking pictures? I don't know. I don't remember being in the closet. Sexually. So I don't know why I would have done that. And what else can I show you? Are you amused yet? I mean, Matthew Perry, Jerry Spence, Morris Dees. I mean, for God's sakes, people. Um, there's so many. There's so many highlights. I'm really well trained. I'm well trained in firearms. Let me explain why I just segued. Um, the same year, was the same year as Trial Lawyers College. I think there was maybe the same year. Anyways, I applied for gun school in Kerrville, Texas. Outside of Kerrville, Texas was a place called Thunder Ranch, and it was run by a guy named Clint Smith. Clint Smith had been a special ops trainer for the military and privately. He was a premier firearms instructor in the country. And so he was running a gun school. And so I sent him my thing. They said, well, we're booked, but if there's an opening, we get a cancellation, we'll call you. So I'm like, all right, cool. So they're probably not going to. So I signed up for another gun school in Arizona called Gunsight Academy, which had been around forever. Jeff Cooper had been the director. He was revered as a firearms instructor. So I'm sitting home. I get a phone call like on a Friday. Would you like to come to Thunder Ranch Monday and start the training? I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, wasn't planning to go on Monday, and this is a year when I was doing so many other things, traveling to do trials and stuff. So I jump in the car because I lived in Dallas, and I drove down to outside of Kerrville, and I spent a week training with Clint Smith. And by the time I was done, I went from being an okay shooter, and I mean just an okay shooter, to we learned first to shoot a target that was in, somewhere in front of us. You dig what I'm saying? Then they got the targets to go back and forth like that, and we would shoot this target. And then they got us to move backwards while the target was moving and shoot. Then they got us on a platform where the target would rush us and we had to back up and shoot while backing up, and on and on and on. For 5 days, 8 hours a day, we were shooting. So when I got home, I took a firearms test with the state of Texas, and I put 50 rounds into a hole about that size, just one hole, every bullet going through. You dig what I'm saying? Because after you just went through that, it's like being with Jerry Spence. You learn how to do trial, and you went to trial, and you kicked everybody's ass. You spend time with Clint Smith, who I think is a dick, by the way. But the fact is, he was a good teacher, and so were his co-teachers that he hired, kicking ass, kicking ass. So I had that opportunity. Rachel points out that she did meet Spence when he was with me in Chicago, and that he gave her a signed book. He was very generous that way. He signed books for my friends and family. Good time. So I did that. It may have even been the same year I went to Trial Lawyers College. I don't know. Things are a blur, but it was around the same time. I think when I first went to Trial Lawyers College the first year, I lived in Chicago, but then I moved to Texas. No, I don't think that's the series of events. All right. Um, so I'm telling you, and then so I literally finished shooting with Clint Smith at Thunder Ranch Friday, late Friday evening. No, I mean late Friday afternoon. Got in my car because I'm scheduled to be at Gunsight Firearms Academy on Monday morning. I got to get to Arizona, Payson or Peyton or something, Arizona. So I drove to Arizona, and I arrived on at some point, and I began training at Gunsight Academy first thing Monday morning, all Monday. Tuesday, I go back out on the range. There's a point to this story. And about 10 o'clock in the morning, they come and get me. They drive out to the range from the office, which is a distance away, and they say, we have a phone call for you. You need to come. So I went. It was my mom. My dad had slipped into a coma that morning. He was at Rush Presbyterian Hospital in Chicago, and she wanted me to know that his life was hanging in the balance. And so, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to come home? Do you want me to wait? She said, well, I'll call you back. I just wanted to let you know what's going on. She called me back shortly after and said, you need to come home. So I never finished Gunsight Academy, but I did appreciate what they were, the negotiations with them, and land up with one of their special custom 45 caliber firearms, beautiful handgun. And so then I went to Chicago. My dad passed that week. He passed like 2 days later. So I've been to Gunsight. I've been to Thunder Ranch. I've been to Thunderhead Ranch with Jerry Spence. That's the name of his ranch. And I went to the Executive Protection Institute with Phil Kovitz, who was the head of the institute and was considered the premier teacher of personal protection people all over the country. So I've really had a very, and it just, I've been exposed to some of the greats. I tried to make that point in my recent post about where my sister said, "How is it you met Dick Cavett?" And I didn't know. And I thought, well, I don't know. How is it my sister didn't know that I met Dick Cavett, when I posted the photograph? And so if you follow my Facebook, you saw that I wrote that the all these things were just happening. They were just unfolding. I wasn't reporting on them. I wasn't keeping a diary or logging it in. I was just doing it. Except for some photographs, I didn't have any idea what I was really in the midst of. All right, it's 6:46. I got to go teach meditation now. Thank you for listening to me tell you about the Jerry Spence thing. There's a lot more. I'm going to try to, and talking about Jerry that way, it stimulated me. I kind of knew I would talk about that as a possibility. Um, uh, you lived in Chicago when your dad passed? Maybe so. No, no, I didn't live in Chicago when my dad passed, but thank you for suggesting that, Rachel. All right. So, so Rachel thinks I lived in Chicago when my dad passed, but that's not true. I lived in Dallas, Texas. How do I know that? Well, first off, it was going to the store to buy a suit because I didn't have any clothes in Chicago. And then it was Lori flying up to Chicago for the funeral. And there were little clues in there about where I lived. Of course, it was my life involved as well. So I like to suggest I pretty much got the timelines. I'm just not completely clear on it. But I understand it was in close proximity when I moved. All right, it's 6:47. I really have to get out of here. I'm just messing with Rachel. I didn't live in Chicago. I can see why she thought so, though. So, um, thank you. Put your hands together. Take a deep breath. Bow your head. Close your eyes. Bear with me. Think to yourself, may I be happy, healthy, free from harm, free from anger, anxiety, and fear. May this practice lead us to greater peace and comfort in our lives. May my mother and father, all my living relatives, and all my friends, may they also be happy, healthy, and free from harm. May they too find a path that leads them to a life of greater peace and comfort. And to those persons that I find troublesome, that I may harbor any resentment towards, let me send them goodwill, that they may be happy, healthy, free from harm, and enjoying their lives in this moment. And to all living beings throughout the universe, wherever they may be, let them be the recipient of this collective goodwill that emanates from us, from our hearts, and finds all living beings to be happy, healthy, free from harm, living lives in safety, comfort, and peace. Satu, Satu, Satu. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Mark and Ann and Chris, Becky, if she showed up, Rachel, thank you. Lisa, Joan, you guys are the best, man. Thank you for getting me through the brain farts, Ray Dean. I will try. Maybe I'll make notes one day. By the way, I thought the songs I posted were very cool. I didn't mention them. Yes. Thank you, Lisa. Feel free to join us in meditation. I know you have sometimes. You're always welcome there. All right. Peace out. Hi, Ann. Bye.